Welcome all. This is our 6th podcast at Storm FC TV. My name's Anthony Penna. We welcome you along again. I've got a new guest today. We've got Paddy. How are you, Paddy?
Great, Andy. Thank you.
Now, Paddy has come a long way. It took him a little flight to get down here. He's from up in the North Richland Hills area. But originally, you'll get to understand his accent, or not understand his accent, but hear his accent in a second. He's not from around here. But today's going to be a little bit different. Today we're going to talk about something other than UPSL and some of our youth stuff. We're actually going to bring a topic up about development. But before we dive into development, I want to let you all know who Paddy is and where he comes from and how we got to this point with him being in the DFW Metroplex. So Paddy, great to see you. So tell us a little bit about where you're from.
Well, I'm from Dublin, beautiful city in Ireland, a beautiful country, and I'm here now.
Well, obviously we can see that. So what brought you to the States? And how long ago? How long ago did you move to the States?
I went in the States now 21 years roughly.
Good Lord. So I've been here 20 years as well, 21 years from Paddy, so we've certainly been here a few years. So let's ask you, what brought you to the States?
Well, what brought me to the States, I think I could say, is a challenge. I was in a college, a junior college. I had an academy in a junior college.
And that's here or in
Ireland?
In Ireland, okay.
It's College Data. We sent over 80 kids on soccer scholarships in the time I was there. But,
so you sent 80 kids from Dublin, or from the area of Dublin, to the United States, all over the United States, right?
All over the United States.
And they all went to play soccer for a college and get an education.
And some of them went on to actually become coaches in colleges.
Wow, that's tremendous. So he ended up having players or kids that were going to college. He was coaching them in college, and then he managed to link them up over to the States where they went into different colleges. Now he's saying not only did they come over and got an education, play for college, some of them are even a coach in college, which I know about because there's a couple that we've talked about in California.
Yeah, some
and stuff.
of them are very successful, doing well, which I'm very pleased about.
Yeah, tremendous job. And actually, some of those coaches, we'll break into this in a minute when we go to the National Premier League stuff, we've actually coached against some of those coaches. So one of them's moved on actually back into Houston. So anyway, well, let's roll back the clock a little bit. We'll come a little bit more near the future. But in Ireland, what got you started in the soccer? Were you a player? Were you? What were you?
Well, I'd like to think I was a player.
Don't we all?
6 years of age, but it didn't come through enough for me to play at a longer. But the club I was with was a Belvedere Youth Club. It was a club. It was called the Newsboys Club at that time, and that's where I started my competitive soccer, if you want to call it that. And from there, I went to play for Bohemians for a couple of years, semi-pro with Longford Town. And,
so that semi-pro, what you were then, 15, 16? I'm trying to go back a few years, I guess.
At that time, I was around 20.
Oh, so you were about 20 years old when you were semi-pro?
20 years.
So you left school around, what, 16?
I left school a little bit early, around 15.
Okay. So it's a little bit different in both England and Ireland. We go through school, especially, well, we're a little bit of a difference apart, not that far though, Paddy, I guess. But when you go through school, you leave around about 16, you can make a choice going to the working world. As Paddy was saying, he left around about 15. So he was playing in the youth clubs, and we can talk a little bit about those youth clubs. We were saying, was it Belvedere?
Well, Belvedere was what we call the schoolboy end of the
Right. So you were still at school when you were playing for the Belvederes, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now that's a little different to what we have over here. Every country, I guess, is different. Here we have clubs. You go your free recreational, your academy. You join a club with academy and club, and then from there you could probably go to college or to the professional route or whatever. Back home, it was you literally played for your local town, right? You just joined a team you want to join.
And to break it down a little bit further, it was a local street. And you didn't play for the street a couple of yards down the road.
So just so our viewers will know, why would you want to do that? You get killed.
Well, I don't want to go into that end of the game.
I hear you. So again, a little bit different for me, where I grew up with the similar. It was towns as opposed to the streets there. But you would play for your local, like literally where you could walk to, where you would go with your buddies and just play. There was none of this, hey, we're going to sign and
contract. Travel
10
miles for the train.
There you go, yeah.
Which is a big problem.
So he's gone through, and that was your first organised soccer was when you were 6, right?
First organised.
So I was a little bit later than that, but Paddy's around 6. So once you got to the semi-pro leagues there, you were around about 20 years old. You were working as well.
I was working I actually had a family at that time. I was 20 years of age. We got married very young, me and Lucy, my beautiful wife, and I had
Fantastic, Lucy.
5 great kids, 4 boys and 1 girl, and they're all doing very well, thank God.
And just a little side note there, he's got kids all over the world. So he's got a singer and is that folk singer or country singer? What would you class it as? It's Irish, right?
Country rock.
Country rock, Australia, but travels
He's in Australia.
the whole world. He travels. So.
Yes, he's doing.
And then Paul's here, who I know very well. And then he's got his other son that's England doing a bit of masonry and also some coaching and stuff.
Correct. I've
Right.
got one still in Ireland, and my daughter, my only daughter, she's in Scotland.
So there's one in England, Scotland, one in Ireland, one in Texas, and then one in Australia.
Well, I was asked to play for a professional club as a youth player, and I did make it to the second team when I was 18 years of age. I had a couple of tries with the Irish youth team.
That's fantastic. That's a pretty good honour.
And I actually, a mistake I made, I left that kind of professional environment to go back to my local club team. They started up a local club team, and it was all the mates, all the friends, and and we went back, and they were very, very successful. They won the national title a couple of times.
Oh wow!
We were very successful. And then around, I think it was 24 when I went to Bohemians. Right.
And how far was Bohemians from Dublin? Still within Dublin, really, isn't it?
Yes, it was within Dublin. Yes.
Yeah.
It's
And Dublin's a fairly big city.
it's about 15 minutes drive. You know?
Yeah.
And from there, the club that I started my soccer with, Belvedere, there was a lad there called Vincent Butler. Tremendous, very successful with you kids, and he's been involved with the Irish youths. He's done very well. He asked me would I like to get involved and put something back into the club that kept me out of trouble. And
which is good. That's what we try to do here. Yeah.
And that's what sports does for kids, and if you can keep.
So is that what put you back? That's what started your coaching career?
That's what started my.
And how old were you then?
Career. I was about 24.
24. So we're not going to share your age with everybody out here, but you've got an extensive knowledge of the game. You've been an extensive student in both playing and in coaching, and a coach educator. So Paddy also educates other coaches here through, I'm not sure if you do the USC anymore, United Soccer Coaches, the old NCAA. But I know you're with North Texas with Gary Williamson, and we've had you with us a couple of times doing some courses as well. So Paddy also does the coaching. So we'll roll on a little bit now. He's in Ireland. He's doing his coaching now. What was the highest level you coached at in Ireland?
Well, in Ireland,
Republic of Ireland.
Republic of Ireland. I didn't actually do my first license in Ireland. I went to England because I wanted to go
through the FA,
where I thought the best was.
Mm-hmm. Right, you're rolling
back now.
Okay.
It wasn't necessarily looked upon as the way to play the game properly. But I done my premium license, and a couple of years later I done my A license.
Okay, so the A license back then was the top license. There wasn't really a pro license. It was the old A license. Was the top you could get.
Yeah.
So we're rolling back a couple of years. Now, of course, there's the pro senior, and then you've got in the FA you have to have the pro.
And then you've got the Euro A, Euro A, and Euro B.
Mm-hmm.
So the game has moved on a lot since then.
And it does. It never stands still.
Both on and off the field.
So what was the top team? What was like your pinnacle of coaching in Ireland? What did you, what level or who did you coach that you felt, man, this is the top level right here, or what you perceived to be the top level?
Well, from my academy, I was asked to join Shamrock Rovers.
Big club.
To develop their academy, and I spent a couple of years with Shamrock Rovers, and then I was asked to go to Bray Wanderers to look after their second team. So I was coaching at a pretty decent level.
So from there you can see really his journey through getting coaching licenses, through the youth programs, and then eventually up to a reserve team, to the first team. That's what we call them back home. They're not the second or anything. They're just a reserve team. So his son, by the way, is Paul Gallagher, who ended up, was he your third oldest, second oldest?
Paul is number 3, so.
So he's the third oldest. Paul ended up meeting his wife now.
Oh, excuse me. I'm going to get killed. He's number 2.
He's number 2. He's the number 2.
He's number 2. Sorry, guys.
So he's the second oldest. It's all good. And we've got 5 there. It's okay. They're all the same, right?
Yeah, correct.
Paul ended up going on vacation when he was younger into Mexico, I think, Cancun maybe. Met his wife to be, and then moved to the States with her. That's what really brought you to this area, because your son was here, right? Paul was here.
Well, when Paul came out, when Paul met his wife on holidays, they were going back and forward for a year or so, and he eventually he said, "Hey, I'm going." So we wished him the best of luck. He came over, got involved with a club.
Up in Keller back
Within
then.
it was actually the horse there.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Hurst, yeah.
Right, and we started a little business called International Soccer Skills. So in the summer I used to go over and do some camps. So I was doing camps all around the state.
So the summer camps we got, Paul would have a summer camp, and then a couple of you, including a couple of others, will come over and then do week-long camps for his kids right in that area.
Correct.
What made you bite the bullet and come over?
Well, as I said, I was in my academy back home, and I was about 10 years there. I was getting a little bit stale, you know, because it's not like a club thing. It's in school and that, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and there's certain criteria you have to go by. But I really enjoyed it. I think they became, one year they done a complete sweep of the board with the school. So
that's fantastic.
But it ended up then that I was talking to Paul about it. I says, I'm getting a bit stale. He says, well, let me know what you want to do. So about a year after that, one of his coaches resigned, and the coach was coaching 2 teams. So he says, he called me, hey, if you want to do it, he says, now's the time, because I've got 2 teams available. So I says to Lucy, okay. I says, we're going to Texas. She says, what? But anyway, it says, look, and she was a bit apprehensive, you know, because I had a good job. I was still coaching soccer as well, and of course, got great neighbours and friends from Kilbarrack where we lived. And it ended up that I said, look, let's do this. Let's go over for a holiday for a year. And if it doesn't work out, we can always come back. I'll always get a job. So she said, after thinking of it for a couple of months, she said, okay, that sounds good. So it ended up then that I says to Paul, okay, let me know when you want me there. And I come over and I left my wife there, and we decided that instead of
bring the whole
renting out the house or bringing it out, I said, look, I have to go over. It was coming here, select time. So I says, I have to go over, and I says, you're going to have to do the business and sell the house. So that was a big job that I put on her. And
it's a big move. I know that move.
She keeps giving me a bang of it, you know, you left me on my own.
I bet.
You know?
I can imagine.
But anyway, it ended up that we both moved over. And I think, my hand on my heart, I think it's one of the best moves I've ever made. Because I love it here in the States. People are great, especially in Texas. And well, the soccer is not like Europe. I think we're making big strides, and I think we're eventually going to get there, because the number of kids now playing the game is grown big time since
exponentially since we've been here pretty much the same time, so exponentially.
Yeah.
Well, that's a little bit of a history. We don't want to go into a complete history here with Paddy, but I think that gives you a really good broad spectrum about where Paddy came from, how he got here, and really his experience throughout the whole gamut of the soccer world, from Ireland, from the youth, grassroots level, right up through to the professional level, both in playing, coaching, and then of course coming to the States. And now, like I told you, mentioned you a little bit earlier, he's a coach educator here for North Texas in the US Youth Soccer Association. That's their governing body. He's also the boys director at Odyssey Soccer Club. Now, just so you know how Odyssey and Storm, there's not many clubs that really get along here in North Texas, but Paul and I are good friends. Paddy's a good friend as well. And really we sat together to figure out what we could do better for our kids. Paddy trained some really good boys teams, and it was it was getting to a point where they would get to a pinnacle, they couldn't go any further because the bigger clubs come in and take the players. So we decided to create City FC, which is our elite arm, through Storm and through Odyssey. That's why we created City, so we didn't have to lose our names at the time. We were trying to do this as a temporary thing and figure out what to go forward. 6 years later, we're still at it and we're still doing City, and we've grown from it. So that's how the two clubs come together. The reason we want to bring Paddy in and go through some of this stuff about the development, man, he's got that experience. So I think it'd be great to give to you guys that are viewing this some information, some questions to ask yourself. Maybe you're looking for some of those answers, and I'm not saying we're going to supply that, because this is going to be from his heart and his mind, and from my heart and my mind on what we feel should be done. But you have to get an idea of where we're coming from to where we want to happen here. Like you just said, that exponentially there's more players playing. We want it to be a lot better here. We want to give our kids that are in our programs the same experience that we got possibly when we were in Europe and that kind of community and that development side. So we're going to move on into development. What is development? So the first question I was going to talk about and really expand upon is, what is development? What does development mean to you, Paddy?
Well, development as it pertains to soccer.
Yes, everything to soccer.
Yeah. I mean, it's learning. It's learning the game. It's learning the game how to play the game. It's learning how to think about the game, the tactical end of it. And obviously the other end of it is looking after your body, preparing for games, preparing for training, preparing for pre-match games. And
yeah, to get your body ready for all that, and your mind ready. So your body, your mind, psychology, and your fitness.
And then the recovery end of it. So there's a broad span there of learning. Now, obviously, at different ages, there would be different things brought into their learnings for the kids to learn.
And do you think that the development with these players that are coming in, is there like a pathway to it? Is there a certain type of development we're looking for at the younger ages, the middle ages, the elite players, the sub-elites?
Well, the most important thing, I worked with Alan Wade, who was the director coach for England for about 30 years, and he was way ahead of his time. And I'll always remember the quote: "Good technique is the foundation upon which class players are made." And that's always stood in my head. So whether I'm doing peewees or professionals, I try and work everything with the ball. So that there's a technical aspect. You know the saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. So and if I leave the game, or if players leave me and go on to something with them. A lot of them have gone on to different clubs and colleges that I've left them with a good foundation in which they can play the game. Because when you can do things in the game with the ball, you're enjoying the game, and it doesn't become a chore. You know, the love of the game, especially with the younger ones now, and you've got all these. They can go on the website now and they can look at all these moves being made. So when the kid learns a move and he starts to enjoy doing these little tricks and that, and then training to do those tricks and then implementing them in the game in the right area, now they're falling in love with the game, and now we have them. We've got them for life. So it's very important that the foundation has got to be placed in all the clubs, whether it's recreational, whether it's pre-academy, or whether it's academy. We've got to try and get the kids at a younger age to be more technical with the ball, right?
So that begs a question: does the development then is not just on the player and the child? It's got to be with the coach as well.
Well, the coach and the
parent maybe,
and the family at home, the parents, and maybe you've got an older brother that played, you know. And if I got a player and he's got an older brother, and I say, well, what did you show him today? Did you show him any moves and that, you know? So the environment usually where you live or come from, that's what's usually going to determine what sort of a direction you're going to take in sport, right? So like, with all the technology and the affluence that is in America, so the kids now are getting a I mean, they got TVs in around, they got
Well, they got phones
their
at 11 years old.
phones at 11 years of age. So, back when I was playing, when you came home from school, I don't like saying this, but I threw my bag under the bed and I got my ball and I went and called for my mates and we went out and we just played soccer, you know.
I don't think it was any different for any of us growing up.
No,
Until it went dark.
So now it's kind of not like that anymore. Well, the kids are not spending enough of time with the ball. So to that end, that we've introduced in our club, and I know you do as well, Anthony, that we get the kids homework sheets to practice their skills at home, and we say to the parents, they got to sign off on this. It's not enough to do practice 3 times a week. It's got to be done every day. And spending an hour extra on the day and giving up some other leisurely activity, for the want of a better word. And not only that, it keeps the kid occupied, it keeps them healthy because they're doing exercises, it gets them off the sofas, you know, stop watching the TV, because I think we watch too much TV now.
I agree with that. And to add to that, I know what our viewers do and what our club members do, but one of the common things that I'm saying to the parents are, I mean, if you took it down 48 weeks of the year, typically in Texas now we can practice, right? Twice a week, let's just round it up to an hour each time of a practice. It's probably more in most cases, just depends on the ages. At that point, you're only talking about, 96 hours of practice in a year. And to pull back what you said about us coming home from school, throwing the bag in, I don't even know if I made it home from school. I think there were sometimes I was on the way home from school, there's a park on the way. Right. So I was the furthest living when I was walking home from school. I would stop in the park, you put your bag down, you jump, you take your jumper off. There's the goals. It could be 18 against 20. Hey, they're winning, I'm going to jump up. So in those respects, I think ball and the feet and touches on the ball and decision making within those scenarios, like an organic game, an organic kick around, a street ball if you like, produced a lot more decision making technical players, and working out how to beat players without looking now at YouTube and trying to copy the Ronaldos and everything else. You create your own. So I think you've got a good aspect there, and we say the same thing to our parents and our kiddos. Twice a week's not going to cut it. You're going to need to do that extra skills work. And for us in our club, we do a little bit different to Odyssey. They do the homework sheets, and I know Joe, Stephen, and a couple of others do it. What we've put together is also a video of our core club skills, footwork and ball mastery, and then also, we have what's called the Skills 11. So what we do on that one is we break down the 1v1. So you have 1v1 face to face, 1v1 side to side, 1v1 attacking diagonally, and then 1v1 back to goal or back to pressure. They're really the only 4 1v1s you can ever get, and you can apply 3 1v1s to each and make sure you're very good at those. So it's different ways of doing it, but it's the same end product we're trying to get there, which would be players that are going to go home and do some technical work to get better at both feet. I mean, I'll be the first to say, when I was growing up, I was one-footed. I mean, my left foot was used there for standing on.
I tell you a story, I tell this to all the kids, when I was growing up, one of my idols was Stanley Matthews, the great Stanley Matthews, English player. First one to get 100 caps, and they call him the Wembley Wizard, the Wizard of the Dribble. He's
got a turn named after him, the Matthews.
So anyway, I wanted to be like Stanley, so I went, when I was there on the thing, I kept using my left foot and banging her off the wall, controlling it, moving, turning, banging her off. And I became predominantly, if I can say, a pretty decent left-footed player. Now here's the kicker. Stanley was a right-footed player. But it just goes to show you, if you want something badly enough and you care about it and you work at it and you set some goals, you can become two-footed player.
Oh,
and I ended up I was pretty decent with my right foot, but because of the time I spent with my left was pretty predominantly left foot. I was a pretty predominantly left-footed player, and if I may say so myself, I would put a ball on the sixpence for the one of my bed for 30 years. I had a decent one, So that came from practice, and it was practice. Now, there's an old saying, what does practice make? And I always say this to the kids, what does practice make? And they all say, permanent, perfect. And I say, no. Good practice makes perfect, and that's where the good coaching comes in, right? We can shorten the learning period, for kids to learn these moves and that, so they don't have, instead of spending maybe 10 hours trying to learn a few moves, a good coach can cut that time down to 2-3 hours. Right. So now we've got more time to work on other aspects of the game.
So that takes developing coaches, and then coaches improve themselves as well, and giving them mentorship, which I think you do primarily up in your club when you can. And of course that's part of my job, and actually Joe Stevens we're bringing in to be able to do that as well, because we really think that empowering our coaches is going to only help the kids. We can only impact so many kids, and that's through our coaches. So we talked a little bit about what the development is. I mean, that's a big subject right there. I think there's a lot more than just saying, you know, technical ability right down to very young ages, because I think development takes all the way through from, it doesn't matter when you apply to become a soccer player, but you come into a club or a rec association or a city soccer, it doesn't matter where you go, you're wanting to play, you're wanting to get better, you're wanting to enjoy something, and that's really the basis of it. To develop from there, you've got to get that love of the game, as Paddy's been saying, still that love of the game, capture them because they enjoy doing what they're doing on the field. Then the development becomes a whole lot easier coming through. Now the development in stages, in my mind, the development comes in a lot of different aspects there. You're not just developing a child in the way they are, you're developing a person. Mind, physical, decision making, how they act, how they present themselves, how they respect others. There's a lot more to it. Of course, we're talking about the soccer, but I think that's all encompassing within that soccer environment. So when we say what is development, I think development is I don't know if you agree with me or not, is a policy in place, or it is a pathway in place, or a procedure in place, or even you live by it. It's something you live by within an organisation, that you're dedicated to improving the overall holistic approach to that player, that person, from year when they come to you to when you can get them, and even further if you can. I've got a lot of alumni that have come back to us because they had that connection with us.
That's correct, and what we were saying earlier about developing, there's more than just the technical end of it. You go up in the technical, the tactical end, and conducting yourself in a proper manner against your opponent, even if he is kicking the legs out, you know. And having a bit of respect for referees, although sometimes, you know, the standard of that.
Well, I get the standard. I mean, I had a conversation this past weekend, but I'm now finding myself turning around to my coach and saying, hey guys, if we didn't have these referees, I was involved in one with the President's Cup just a couple of weeks ago, and we had a laugh about it last night. The referee turned around to me and point blank said to me, no, coach, you need to look on YouTube so you can learn the rules of the game, which he put us in a bit. The whole story was an injured player came off, one of our injured players, she had to come off because we went on. He wouldn't let her back on until the next available substitution, which was when the ball stopped, and in North Texas rules that would have been either a throw in for us or a goal kick, and the other team just kept the ball. Yeah. They were playing 10 against 11 to get the ball. He goes, no, that's the rules from YouTube. Now that's a one-off, but I will also maintain, if we don't have referees, we ain't playing. So I find myself less and less involved with the referee, and really with the development side of the game, even if we're taking a loss at the time, what do we work? Are we still working on what we're trying to do? Are we working on the technical aspect? Are we working on the shape, the system of play? Are we doing the correct things in the right phases of play? Are we going through the 4 quarters? And of course, we break the field down to 4 quarters in that particular time. And are you making good decisions? I think a good decision maker, and you had mentioned this before you went into the technical aspect, you were saying, well, they need to know the game, need to learn the game, they need to know how to play the game before even the technical. Well,
the referee thing is very important part of it, because players get frustrated when they see things, you know. And I think the Referees Association, and it's, you know, it's damned if you do and damned if you don't, you know, because you've got two teams.
And money's involved.
And money's involved.
So
but what they should try and do is, and I'm sure they may do this, is like us giving something back into the game as coaches. More players, it'd be great if they could get more decent players to go back into that end of the game. And we do now. They have an understanding of what a
tackle takes, and
what is the tackle, what's a fair tackle, and what's a bad tackle. And
I agree with that. And we actually do that in our SCDL, our Southern Club Development League. Riley's comes to my mind, one of our O1 boys. He has been refereeing in that for a long time, but we control the environment so he's not being yelled at and anything else. So we've talked a little bit about, you know, who it is, the parents and the players. So now really what we want to talk about is why should it matter? Why does development matter? What are we trying to get out of development? Why do we think it needs to be there?
Well, I think from a point of view, well, there's a few reasons why I think it matters, you know. Number one, when you've got kids involved with sport, they're staying out of trouble. There's a lot of bad stuff out there, and there's a lot of bad stuff on the internet, and if a kid is out there, no matter what sport it is, of course our game is the game we love, and that's what we're pushing here, you know. But that's number one reason, right? Keeps the kids occupied, it keeps them healthy, it keeps them fit. The other reason is now I'm in America now, right? I've taken out citizenship, right? And when
So it's American, not Irish.
and when the USA is playing, I'm looking at them. If they're here locally, I go and see them. So now I'm looking to see, and we've done reasonably well on the girls' end of it. I think there's a level playing field after happening, because the Europe and the rest of the world.
The girls are catching up. They're catching up.
So they're catching up, and that's great for the game.
Yes.
As a whole. The men haven't done too good, right?
Not lately.
Not lately, as terms of qualifying for. And when we get back on, when we got onto this, the winning business. But I'm now an American citizen, and I want my team to win the World Cup. That's the USA. Of course,
I'll be fine on that one.
I'll be watching Ireland, and I want them to win the World Cup. But the number of players playing in Ireland, the number of players playing in America, I think America has a lot better chance.
Texas alone probably has more players than. But going back to that's a really good point you just brought up, because I think, you know, we look right now, and there's been a lot in the media, and I'm going to do another podcast about this, about the pay per play system and the development and everything else on that side, because there's been a lot of questions about, well, what's broken? The American men's team did not make the last World Cup. Why? Why didn't they make? But I would also cast back, England didn't make the American World Cup in '94, and it was apparently broken then. I think whenever a team, and the Italians didn't make it, there was a problem there. The system's broken, because when you don't make a major tournament like that, in the biggest scheme of things, then something's broken.
Well, let me jump in on you on that, because I remember when I was back in Ireland, and that's 20 odd years ago, you know. The problem they seen was you got players now starting to come in from all over Europe, and even some Americans going over to play in England. So that restricted a lot of English kids, born English kids,
From playing.
potentially internationals, of making it through, right? Now I think they've addressed that system. You see now a lot more young players.
Well, I do think, and I'm taking that, I heard it from my stepmom and my dad. They used to, whenever I go back home, I would hear that. But I also think in the Premier League, I'll talk about the Premier League because I watch that primarily. A lot of these initial, and that's really where I'm in the States, because all these influxes, I knew the writing was on the wall for us coaches, because they're all going to drop out. But I do think, because the strongest players should be the strong players, but the majority of the best players and the strong players that come through into the English Premier League, it's had to force the English and the Irish and the Scottish and the local home country boys to get better, because they're always in the environment with the best, and the coaching's got better. So I think in England, referring back to the Republic in England and the Dominican Republic, they made the American World Cup and had a great time here. They're in Dallas actually, whereas the English didn't make it. And I think at that point there was a definite conversation: are the coaches good enough? Are the coaches being given a good enough coaching education? Because as we talked about, we all come home and play soccer. We're walking through a park. We go in the evening. We play in a park. We're going to do that. So it wasn't that was the case. But again, we digress a little bit on the development, but that's still the development. You're talking about the development is the pinnacle of the sport, which is the very top. And we're trying to develop players that want to get to that level, to be able to play at that level, or a college, or whatever level they get to. So why should development matter? We're saying it matters because on the bigger scale of things, we're looking for players that can improve the national team, is what we're saying. On stepping back from there, of course, not every player is going to be able to make the national team. Not every player is going to make it professionally. But we do want them to be able to develop as people and as a player, to be able to enjoy the game, and when they have kids, they're going to bring them back into a sport that they loved and they played well at, right?
Well, there are other aspects of the game that players that don't make it, they say they may be in the college and they say, I'm not going to make pro. Well then you become a coach, you become a trainer
physiotherapist,
physiotherapy.
yeah.
You know,
Ticket sales,
you
major soccer.
can become now a mental coach.
Yes.
Which is
Sports
changed.
scientist, which I am. Yeah.
You know, from when we were playing, it was get out there and play. You know, that was.
Well, again, when I was going through school, I was told I was going to be a train conductor. So here I am as a soccer coach, and I was a train conductor, right? That's what I was going to be told as. So yes, you're right. There's once you get into that area, there's a whole lot more that you can do within the area.
So staying in the game as young players, you know, and I say this to my players, I said, look, some of you are going to go on to college, some of you are not going to make college, some of you are going to go pro, semi-pro, and I hope go on and be a professional. But look at the other aspects that's involved in the game, you know.
Yeah.
Even being a manager, even being an entrepreneur, and building a team, something like yourself, Anthony, you know. Which is great.
It was just, and that's really answering why we would do it. Now, how do you? Well, let's break this down. If we were looking at how the development, how would you like to see if you were to run your own organisation? I know you're in your organisation right with your son, but how would you like to see the development? What would you put in place? How would you do it to see the best development we could possibly see?
Well, I think we've got some of those things in place with the MPL and North Texas ODP program, you know. But it all starts at the club level, because if they're not good enough to get onto the ODP, if they're not good enough to get onto their own local team, they're not going to be able to make the ODP. But there's a lot of bad publicity. I think when I come over first, there's a lot of negative stuff going on about the ODP and the MPL and that, you know. But they're great pathways for players that want to become better.
That's the key right there. The players that want to
become better.
It's more meaningful competition, higher competition,
and that's not
consistent.
And that's not saying we're not looking after. I mean, we've got the Special Olympics, you know, and Paul was doing stuff with some of the kids.
The Miracle League, yeah.
The Miracle League, you know. So that's not to say we're going to leave those kids. And I think one of the problems that I would like to address, is the associations. They're scared to let what I would call the professional coaches into their associations, because they feel that they're going to take away. If you've got an association, right, and you want the best for your kids, the good ones are going to develop maybe a little bit longer it'll take than if they had highly qualified and good coaches, right? But the good ones are going to develop anyway, so they're going to leave the recreational to go select.
At some point, yes.
Why not have a select club in your association, and now you've got a goal for your kids, your recreational kids to aim for, and some of them will go, and some of them will stay at the level they're at, right? But you're still developing them, because there's such a thing as a late bloomer. I mean, I didn't go to Bohemia until I was 24.
Yeah.
24 years of age when I signed a professional firm.
So I'm not entirely on the same wavelength as having a select club in a soccer association. I believe in community. I think there is a need for the local soccer association where kids come in, try it. It's no, you know, you're not fixed in for a year or anything else. You're coming in, you're learning. I think it's a great environment for those parents that maybe never played soccer before to learn. There's a lot of adults out there, I know parents out there, they were baseball players, they were football players back in the day, and now they've learned soccer because their daughter or their son to play soccer. But I do think if the community around understands a pathway to be able to help kids, because let's be honest, this is my full-time job, this is what I do. I coach soccer, I run soccer. When you go to those local city soccer associations, they're not necessarily full-time, they're part-time, they're volunteers, and goodness me, they give up a lot of time for that, and I get that.
And usually parents.
Absolutely. But I think that's where we gather them, but maybe by partnering, they can utilise some of our information, some of our brochures. You know, we have a lot of brochures. I wrote 3 years, it took me to write a technical manual. There's a lot of things we can do to help them that would allow those players to at least not be in bad habits, but to learn a little bit about the game, and maybe that will stop a little bit of early dropout when we lose kids because of a bad experience. And I do understand now more so why other clubs out there are starting them younger and coming into the club, because it's an easier environment to make sure that you can train them if that's what they want. If the parents are learning, they've got it's more professionally run. Not that soccer. I don't want to get in that debate about soccer associations and clubs, because that's not what it's about. But I do think if this is our business is to excel and to give the best possible product, the best possible experience for your child to come in and play. And I think that's the difference.
Let me come in on that one. You know, we're talking, and we're talking about the, you know, the select. We're not trying to take away from the recreational. The recreational is part of the pathway to select. Select is part of the pathway to ODP, NPL. Right. ODP and NPL is part of the pathway to become an under 15 national player. So the select, when I'm saying the select should be going in with the Recreational Association, I'm talking going in as a partner. And as part of that, that's the pathway I think that's missing.
Because everybody's against each other.
Correct, and we don't have the, for the want of a better word, the more experience and the professional coaches. So instead of having, and they're doing a great job, I don't know where the kids would be without them. As you said, the mums and dads and the volunteers. It's tremendous. If we can get this in with it, now we're teaching the kids at a younger age technical aspects of the game. Somebody that said, okay, and spend. If he has a bad experience through whatever way he has about it, maybe not learning anything and it's boring and the coaching is boring. And the volunteers, for the one, they don't really know because they haven't experienced the coaching aspect of the game. But
I experience a lot of them want to know.
Correct.
But they might not have that resource.
And that's where the community thing that we're talking about comes in.
I agree.
So now we can teach the volunteer and the parents, right, to become part of the pathway to select, the pathway to the to ODP, NPL, and the pathway to
be a part of the process to help the whole of the increase in awareness and the betterment of the soccer in a whole. So I do believe that, yes.
In Europe now, right, they're starting now feeder clubs at 6 and 7 years of age. They're now recognising we've got to get the kids a lot younger, right? Because there's too many other distractions going on. So if we don't get them before the baseball or and I'm not anti-baseball, and I'm not anti-football, you know, or hockey, whatever it is, I'm not anti that. Any sport that a kid is playing is great. There's always a good aspect to it. But we're looking at soccer and we want the best players, so we can have a national team that can go and win the World Cup and we can say, hey, USA, and Ireland, or England, whichever.
Definitely England. But no, we are a fabric of that. So, well, that was just a little bit of an overview of what we were thinking on the development side. I think there's so much more to talk about this that we'll probably call this part one, Paddy, if I'll be honest. I mean, there's a lot more to the development side, and maybe we'll talk about more about our club's development in the next one and discuss some of that. You know, as far as I'm concerned, I think anybody that has a desire and a pathway, a clear view of what they want within their organisation that will help every parent, every player to be able to go through, and coach and administrator that can go through that program to allow these kids to have the opportunity the best they can be. Because when it comes down to heart and want to is going to make the drive, right? But if we can put in place the environment, the coaches, the administration, the philosophy, the playing levels are important. We talked a little bit about some acronyms right there, and that's all about America. Americans all about acronyms, right? Well, we talked about the recreational side of soccer, then we talked about select, competitive, academy, but then we said about Super Y, NPL, these things, National Premier League, these are regional leagues. We play these regionally. And the idea would be for those kids that are trying to get a little bit more competition, a little bit more speed in the game, more touches on the ball against meaningful opposition. That's what they're for. they're there, and it also helps as an ID clinic because it really funnels some of those players into the ones that want to go to maybe the D1 schools, the D2 schools in college, maybe the ones that want to go further to what is now the USL Pro Championship 1 and 2, or maybe onto Major League Soccer, or even play for their country, which a lot of these kids come into our programs and have those aspirations of wanting to do. But they can't do that if there's not a development model coming through. And I will add to that, at Storm predominantly, I'm not going to talk about Odyssey right now, but I do represent City FC as well. I think that there's also too much here about that's my kid. They play for me. Don't touch them. Don't come near them. Don't talk to them. We're not sharing. But again, in our club, I think there is definitely a way to say that we don't have these kids just on a team. We have kids that play on multiple teams within the club because that's more touching the ball. It's getting different type of coaching, different oppositions on the weekend. If you consider an academy player getting up to 25 minutes without being subbed per half, one game a weekend, 15 minutes without being subbed, not a lot of soccer. When we talk about being coaching twice, that's 2 hours plus maybe an hour of soccer if they don't get subbed out. 3 hours a week. I remember coming home. I played that in just 2 days. Coming from, and kids, I get it. There's authorities out there and there's organisations say they're playing too much. But if they weren't playing soccer, what are they going to be doing? Are they going to be inside? They're going to be playing on computers. They can be. These kids, they want to play. It's a sport. They want to play. Whatever sometimes the level is, you'll hear kids. They want to grab more, so they'll go and play an indoor game. They'll go and play a pickup game. They'll go and do this. They'll go and do it. They want to play. And I think if the kids want to play, then we should be a facilitator to be able to put them in an environment where they're not going to get injured, they're not going to get overuse injuries, they're not going to hurt themselves, but they're also getting to play. And I think one of the development sides is to recognise that and know that we're just a facilitator between their high school age groups, their middle school age groups, their junior high groups, right down to their primary school, what do they call it, elementary side here. We are that. Now, I'm not a college coach, so that's somebody else's job. We're preparing them to go off to college and then play there. Or we're providing them to go to that UPSL now. We have our United Premier Soccer League. We're providing them to go to that. Or we're supplying them and getting them ready to go to USL or into the Major League Soccer. Our job hasn't stopped at high school, it's to pass them on. So I think a lot of the things that we think about, and I tell our coaches, is not about now. It's not about they play for me. This I don't want to. It's about making sure within our club. Now I want them to stay within our club because I think we've got a very good development model here and a pathway. But I do believe we need to give them different levels of soccer and different avenues and different opportunities within our organisation that will prepare them for that next stage because I want them to continue. Now again, careers might dictate that, and the college that they go to might dictate that, and the quality that they play, the level of what they're playing. But I do believe that we've created that now, both with City FC, which is Odyssey and Storm, and with Storm. We adding the UPSL in is another form of the development. We even call it the professional development. We're developing them now to become professional athletes, to become, if any of those can make it to the next level, which would be USL, then or Major League Soccer, or even an upper level of college. We're giving them that development, however small and minute it is. So development, I think, is a massive word. I think it's underestimated. Now, I will, before we just sign off here, let's have a little discussion there about development versus winning. Because I think there is a mentality here where a lot of people say, well, we're not going to sacrifice development for the winning. Yet I think there's also a point where our development is leading to a stage where you have to think about winning. There has to be a winning life. There has to be a mentality within your own life that you need to win. You go for that job interview, you want to win that job interview. You're not just participating, you want to win that job. So you want to perform at the best ability in an interview, or you want to go and get that placement at college and get the college you want. So I do think at some point that development, if you're developing a player and they reach the elite levels, then the elite levels is you're training to win at some particular stage. And within our pathway, player development pathway, you can see the different stages. We've got the fundamental stage, training to train stage, training to compete stage, the training to win stage. So and then the obviously active for life stage, which is where we bring in the UPSL and further. So that's giving these players that have, some of them married, some have got kids, some are in college, some have aspirations going professional, but they have active for life. They're now playing at a level again that they did when they were in the youth ranks, where they're active for life. So what would be your considerations there when you talk about winning versus development versus winning? Is there even such a thing?
Well, I mean, no matter what game it is, whether it's cards, tiddlywinks, soccer, baseball, whatever it is, you keep scores. Mm-hmm. right? And keeping scores is about winning. Now, for us, I'm talking about the pathway and the development. How you win is more important than the result.
So the development of what you're trying to say, that what you're practicing during that week or during that macro cycle or whatever you're doing for that time is how, if you win by using that, that's a great development. You're developing to become a winning team, right?
You're developing to become a winning team, but you're developing to become a win. At the end of the day, it's an entertainment, soccer is. We look at it, I look at it till the cows come home, you know. And as soon as I come in, I want to see if there's a match on, or especially on the weekend, Man United, the first one I look at, right? So it's an entertainment.
We'll have our faults.
So it's an entertainment, you know.
Yes. And I do
It's
say that to
not
my parents.
it's not
I need to be entertained, even as a coach. I need to be entertained. I want to be entertained. That's why my philosophy is based on that.
Now, having said that, entertainment, you could be doing the rainbow in your penalty box. It might be entertainment. But I don't think any coach or parent would like you doing that. So there's an aspect of how you play the game, right? How it's played, and the game has changed so much in England with all these foreign players. It's beautiful to watch.
Mm-hmm.
It's freaking beautiful, you know. And it's how the game is played from a point of view of the skill. Now, when people talk about, and I've spoken to some parents in the Odyssey club about this, you know, and they're saying about skill, you know, and they think it's about dribbling, and everybody wants to be a Messi. Well, if you look at Messi, he doesn't dribble. 80% of the game that he's playing and the Barcelona, the tiki-taki, they're all brilliant dribblers. 80% of the game they play is passing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not dribbling. Now,
not till the finishing phase.
But we don't want to take that out of the game. That's why we teach them at a young age. But if they can do the dribbling in the final third of the fields, or the final quarter of the field,
where it's more lethal. Yeah.
it's more beneficial. You have a chance of scoring goals. If you do it in your own half, in your own defending third, you have a chance of getting more goals scored against you. So
any market is risk versus safety right there.
Correct. So how the game is played, because I think everybody now has gone into the game where it's a possession game,
mm-hmm.
but we keep possession for a reason, and that's not to say that the 40-yard pass in over the top, that's a great pass, especially when it goes in front of a player.
If the decision's there to make it.
So it's when to play it and how to play.
You have 8 players against you in the building of play phase. Maybe penetrating behind those 8 players is the pass you're looking for.
Correct.
And that's a good sign.
And that's what the game is about.
I think we could talk on forever and ever about the winning versus development, and I think there has to be a healthy respect for the both. There has to be a healthy respect, because we do want. Listen, we can turn around. I'm in a situation right now. I've got a team, and I know we're developing, and I know we can play some great soccer. We haven't won a game. We haven't won a game. We're in Lake Island D3. We haven't won a game. And that's hard, because I think winning also instills confidence. So there has to be a balance there, because the winning side of the game, and again, I want us to win games through what we're trying to train, but I might not necessarily have the right players right now, or they're not quite developed enough, or we're playing the game but we're just losing against maybe players that have got that 40-yard kick in there, because we're playing smaller fields, they can nail it every time.
You know, you brought, last night I talked to you earlier.
Yes.
We're winning 1-0, goes 1 each. We're winning 2-1, goes 2 each. We're winning 3-2, goes 3 each. We lose the game in the last couple of minutes, you know. And I come off the field and I'm saying, guys, you gave everything you had. You should have got something. Some of the passing was brilliant, some of the moves, the goals. We scored some beautiful goals. And I'm looking at all the faces and they, dejected, for all the good stuff that I'm saying to them and trying to build them up. We lost the game.
Internally wired.
We lost the game.
They lost the game, yeah. And that's a hard.
And at that age, winning becomes very, very important. At a younger age, I think the kids can listen to you a little bit, But at that age,
they want to win.
It's about results. Really.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The team still develops, but you want to develop in a winning manner.
But you can't play without the technical player. You can't win without the technical player. How do we develop technical players? Development.
There you go.
coach education. It's all. So we're going. We're going back. We've gone from
the elite side of things right back to the beginning.
And now we're going back to the.
Yeah. So I think you're getting the picture from Paddy there. It's a journey. Development is a journey. It's a process.
And it's not all a one way. Sometimes you have to go sideways or take a step back to go 2 steps, 3 steps forward.
And like we were talking about, it's the parent, the player, it's the coach, it's the club, it's the entire holistic approach to it. Because like you just said there, with a kid that's, they're 16-year-olds now, 16, 17-year-olds? 16, 17. They know what they want. They want to win. Yeah. Those kids want to win. They're joining a team because they want to win and they want to be successful. I mean, that's another conversation about all joining a team. They're not getting game time maybe, but they want to win, so they get that. So we can turn around and say, man, that was a great game. We lost 4-3. It was a great game. We were unlucky, and that's soccer. Sometimes we've been around it long enough to know that could have gone. That could have gone your way.
It can be cruel.
It's a cruel game. I mean, we only talked in one of the podcasts with Ray Kennedy, who was here earlier, about losing 2-1 in the President's Cup regionals when one of our players went off. We were the better team. They never done. That team that went on, unfortunately, didn't do very well at all when they went to the nationals. And I think we could have done better. But it's the game. It's the game. Sometimes it is, but you've got that initial. And again, with the team I was talking to you about, we're talking about developing. We're talking about what we're doing in the practice, and we're re-implementing, ready to move that ball. But the field's too small for us. The spaces are not as big as when we go to 11v11 field. So we are losing the ball a little bit quicker, or we're engaging 1v1s and we're not quite as quick as the other teams. They're a bit taller or faster or stronger. And we go to a game, and as soon as a goal goes in, they're like, it's like the air's taken out. Oh, yeah. We're against it again, So you're right. There's got to be. You need a couple of winning games.
So that's another part of the game, when you're losing.
Confidence.
The man in you should step up, and instead of taking a step back when you're losing, hey, let's take a step forward.
Yeah, precisely. I hope by watching this video, I've pulled in Paddy, and I've asked Paddy probably a couple of weeks ago now, wasn't it, Paddy?
Yes.
Man, he's got a lot of wealth of experience and stuff in his mind, and this is not going to be the first one. We're going to try and do this as a weekly, if not bi-weekly. He does live a ways away, and of course I've got the gear set up here, so it takes, how long did it take you down today? About an hour? About an hour, so I'll treat him to a Starbucks in a minute. But one of the key things I think for us is to get some of that information, to get those thought processes out of Paddy so we can pass on to everybody else, because I could sit and talk to him for hours. But with that, I think we can share it with whoever is going to watch these videos. So, Paddy, we really thank you for coming down for this podcast today. We're going to touch on different subjects as we go along. Did you enjoy it?
Pleasure, Dylan.
Absolutely. I love this man. He's a great guy.
Thanks for inviting me.
Great guy, and hopefully we'll get some more done. So from me, from Paddy, this was episode 6. Peace out.